Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage President of Games for Change, Susanna Pollack.
All right, hey guys. Well, I am super excited about this next session. Up until recently, it's been a commonly held belief that video games made poor adaptations, struggling to capture the atmosphere of the original, drafting too far from the source material, and alienating audiences unfamiliar with the game. But that hasn't stopped studios from trying. And I have to tell you, that work is paying off now in a big way. It is the moment of sourcing IP from video games that have proven to be huge blockbusters. Massive hits like the Minecraft movie, The Last of Us, Fallout, and of course, Sonic the Hedgehog have reignited enthusiasms for adaptations that captivate new audiences while honoring their source material. And that's no easy feat. This next panel will explore how games and Hollywood are coming together to drive both commercial and cultural impact, and what that means for audience engagement, world building, and the future of storytelling across mediums. Joining us for the next panel, please welcome moderator Matthew Cohen of Creative Artists Agency, CAA, featuring Erika Ewing from Lionsgate, Dmitri Johnson and Mike Goldberg of Story Kitchen, and Ben Zeiger of Little Wooden Toys. Please welcome everyone to the panel.
So I thought we'd start off a little bit with just quick intros, to let everyone tell a little bit more about themselves than that wonderful introduction from Susanna. I think we'll also then dive in a little bit into how we do this, and we'll talk about the different directions that this type of partnership goes in. I think we want to do that because to truly create impact, you actually have to be able to do the thing in the first place, and so we'll walk through that a little bit, and then we'll talk about some of the ways that social impact does play into what we do. But yeah, I'll start with myself. So yeah, I'm Matthew Cohen from Creative Artists Agency, CAA. I work in the video game department. I started out in the film and TV industry, working for the director and producers of the Twilight series. Then I did a bunch of other things, and ended up back. I went into the video game industry, worked on games, and then came back around into facilitating people getting their games financed and distributed, but also now increasingly helping people with this sort of crossover work. And I'll pass it to Erika.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erika Ewing, and I'm the Senior Director of Interactive Ventures and Games at Lionsgate. I started off working in games just by passion. Journalism is where my degree was in college, and I have a Master of Fine Arts in film producing at the American Film Institute, but always was part of both worlds. Was a Fragdoll cadet with Ubisoft as a women advocate in pro gaming, and lots more exciting things that I just love doing.
Hi, I'm Dmitri Johnson, and I am going to cheat and have my partner and former agent introduce the two of us.
Knew he was going to do that.
That's how it works.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Goldberg. Dmitri and I co-founded the production company Story Kitchen, and we specialize in sourcing and adapting video game IP into film and TV. We are considered best in class at doing it. We love it. It is 100% of the time we spend, and it's working with indie games, AA games, AAA games, is working with classic games. So for example, speaking of Sonic, Dmitri got that party started almost 15 years ago with Sega. We're working with Tomb Raider, Lara Croft for animation at Netflix and live action at Amazon. We're working on split fiction, just insane across the board video game adaptations. And really for us, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, as he spent 20 plus years of merging games and producing, and I have been an agent and a manager before we started Story Kitchen, and thanks to Dmitri and his prior company, DJ2 Entertainment, became the #1 agent for video game IP to TV and film, and now it's Mr. Cohen across the board. But in general, like, this is our happy place. So the fact that there's a panel to talk about this right now could not be more exciting that we're in this moment of time.
And I'm Ben Zeiger. I am a career game developer and co-founder of Little Wooden Toys with Casey Stein, who's a filmmaker and is probably in this room somewhere. There he is. At Little Wooden Toys, we create stories that blend film and video games. And we just announced our first game, Great Northern in Variety, this week, which is an action-adventure game about a young woman riding her motorcycle from New York City to Alaska to scatter her father's ashes.
Cool. So to start off, let's talk a little bit about actually how film and TV properties go into games. That's been the more traditional pathway, actually. There's been a ton of that, a lot of success. Erika specializes in that, and I wanted to maybe ask you a little bit about your work on things like the Saw franchise and how that has been expressed in games.
Cool. I love working on the Saw franchise, and it really just starts from loving the content and working with the filmmakers, and then working with the game devs that are really passionate about it and doing something unique and different every time. So the first time I had an opportunity to work on Saw was with Activision and Call of Duty's Haunting of Verdansk, where we put Billy the Puppet in there for their Halloween and during the 2020, and then since then we've been doing amazing things with Dead by Daylight and Behavior. And one thing that stands out about their team is that with original, taking IP that's already known, but adding original content to the already known IP. So with the Rift and Dead by Daylight, we took Amanda's character and expanded it a little bit. And then my favorite part is going on the wiki and seeing the fans write it as canon and lore. And you just keep going from there. And most recently we put Billy, and I feel like I have a first name basis with Billy the Puppet. He's a good friend of mine. Hey, Billy. And he was in Fortnite, and they were very playful, put Billy copters out there. And so it's just, if you think of the IP as something original that you can add to it, I think that's the magic.
Let me ask you a little bit about that, because that's something that I deal with a lot, and I know Mike did, as an agent, which was the question of these sort of shared universes and rights. Like, how do you deal with or think about those sorts of examples, right? Because it's great to be able to say, hey, we're going to expand the character of Amanda, but now what happens with that expansion? Is that usable further in the franchise? Do you decide to cut that off and just have that be game canon? How are you guys thinking about that?
I feel like there's no right or wrong answer. Like, sometimes if it becomes canon and something that we build together with Saw, with the game dev, is so amazing that it inspires a filmmaker to make their content off of that original content of the IP content, then you're in business. But sometimes it's you want to be more playful, so you try to lend a little bit more of less guardrail, and just you just want to do it for the sake of fun, and that's okay too. It doesn't necessarily have to be anchored in a lore or a core, but often we try to create a narrative or an explanation as to the thread from what a fan might want to needle together. So they feel like, as I would love to feel like the connective tissue, where I've watched every Saw movie several times, and oh wait, that's that little tiny heart on the toilet over here, so oh my gosh, is there the same, you just want to find that ability to let the fans find that connective tissue, but it can be official and not official, but it's kind of up for,
Well, I think I'll use that to segue to the Story Kitchen guys. So as you're looking to adapt some of the projects you're working on, how do you think about both preserving what the fans really care about and core to the franchise, while also expanding it in a smart way?
Yeah. I mean, before we jump into that, I just want to piggyback what you said, because it reminds me of the days, and for those of us who are a little grayer.
Yes, very, yeah.
There was this show that used to air on a thing called broadcast called Lost. And I can remember going to the interwebs after every episode, trying to find clues and answers, and the fact that we're now able to like create content in a way where it's just thought of, like it's such a fun moment. We have, I don't know, our system continues to evolve. It ranges from a lot of repeat business, and by that I mean trusted partners who we have great experience with, and they come back and say, hey, we're working on this next thing, do you want to take an early look at it? There are the passion projects that we've wanted to do since sometimes we were kids, that like the cockroach, you won't be able to kill us until we finally get that. And then there's like, the other way, the preferred way, when the studio calls you and says, hey, we'd really love to do X, do you guys know them? Often the answer is yes, and we'll put it together that way. But our favorite way is when it comes from a place of passion.
Yep.
And that's pretty much our decision maker on how we get behind something or not. We make it clear to any developer who reaches out to us, if it's not for us, still consider us your new best friend. We will be happy to guide you through the process for nothing. We're not looking for anything. With one single goal, and Matt kept us out way too late a couple of nights ago talking about this, one single goal of just not having someone fuck up the momentum we have going right now, which is the quote-unquote curse that never existed, is no longer present, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we believe not every game should be adapted, and not every game should be adapted right now. So we always work through that matrix of, are we passionate? Do we love it? Do we feel like there's a unique way into it? Do we feel like now's the time? Do we know or feel like we have a sense of that medium? Is it live action? Is it animation? Is it film? Is it TV? Is it both concurrent? And so we work to answer the questions and make sure we're matched up with the developer, with the publisher, with both, depending on how the ancillary rights sit. So it's all an exploration, and the most important thing, and again, going back to this awesome moment, we believe that video game developers are the next round of auteurs. Like we saw our filmmakers come out of Sundance.
Not next round, it's already happening.
Yes, like filmmakers been coming out of Sundance and the amazing festivals since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and much more recently, over the last 15 years, we've had this golden era of television and the writer-showrunners that were creating shows that were going on FX and AMC and Hulu and HBO. Amazing. Now it's the game devs. Like, they are the auteurs. So for us, how do we work with these auteurs to expand their vision? And sometimes it's a little bit closer. It's a Last of Us-esque build where it's 1-for-1 or 1-for-1 adjacent, which is risky, but like it can be done. Other times it's expanding the world completely, like Sonic. So it's really case by case if it's checking every box.
And
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, just to put a fine point on this incredible moment we're having, an example, and no matter where we're at having a conversation like this, I stress to any creative who's in the audience, there's never been an easier time to get whatever is in your brain out there and have someone find it. So the pros and the biggest con of what we do is I don't get to play a lot of games for fun. Oftentimes, the games we're playing are games that we're working on.
But it's work fun.
Or,
Yes.
But like friends who are like, are you playing the newest game? Probably not, unless we're adapting it. Or it's a game that'll be announced to you 3 years from now that we're playing an early build of. So in Hollywood, there's 2 weeks of the year where everyone decides to shut down. You're not going to get emails. And that's when I get to go on and discover games. And I discovered this game, no relationship, didn't know him, out of Western Sweden called Planet of Lana. And I just quietly played it. And I was like, because the art style caught my attention. And I'm like, oh, what an amazing score. And then I found at the end of this experience, got a little dust in my eyes. And I'm like, huh. So I text the team, like, check out this game. It's like 6 hours if you're somewhat skilled.
10.
And then we, and then we texted some of our agents who are big gamers. And the same response was like, oh my God, like at the end, you felt stuff. We track these, we're also not just the cockroach, we're like the CIA. So we tracked them down, found them. Turned out they were already following us, which helped. And they were a team of 6 who spent years making this thing in Western Sweden. And now we have one of the biggest filmmakers out of Pixar adapting this small team out of Sweden's game for a live action hybrid film. And like that is the incredible moment. When we were trying to do this together 25 years ago, the only thing a studio cared about was how many copies did a game, sell.
Well, we did sell one thing that didn't even become a game. It was just a game pitch.
But that was black magic.
Yeah, that was black magic.
That was straight black magic. But that was the only thing they cared about. How many copies did this sell? Give us BioShock. And it's like, but you don't want to know about the characters? You don't want to know about this creative world? No. How many copies did it sell? And like now, when we get that question, we're like, you're not for us. Like, we don't answer it. Even if it's we're privileged to be working on Hazelight, Split Fiction, It Takes Two, Sand Falls, Expedition 33. We still won't tell you how many copies it sold, because it doesn't matter. Here's why it's great.
I was going to say, it's so fun sitting on a panel like this, because I'm watching and listening to how many things have
I did not
been
break
announced
an
yet.
NDA. I did not break an
How many things
NDA.
have not been announced yet that are coming out on the panel? I'm like,
I did not say
dancing
who-
around it.
We're
Dancing
good
around
at that. We're
NDAs.
good
I did
at
not
that.
say who the filmmaker was.
You did not. You did not. But no, passion first. Long-winded answer to your question, Mr. Cohen.
No, it's good. And I want to cycle around a little bit on actual process with all of you. But first, I want to go to Bernard. Like, what is so you are one of these people who's coming out of the scene and like become the next generation of creator. Your partner is from the filmmaking world. So you guys are the auteurs. You are doing something really ambitious, which is to try and do this both at the same time. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to do that? I mean, obviously you're coming together like Voltron to do this, but we'd love to hear a bit more about the challenges and rewards of that approach.
Yeah, well, I love, Dmitri, what you were saying about how we're entering a new generation of creators who don't just see games as cabinet arcade machines that are trying to steal your quarters, but are actually profound experiences. And Casey and I met at NYU. We studied film. We thought there was a funny thing at NYU where one of the first days you walk into an auditorium and they ask, how many people want to be film directors? And 99% of the hands go up. And then 1 year later, they say, and now how many people want to be film directors? And like 4 hands go up. And one of them was Casey. But the point being that you learn so much once you get exposed to the industry. And for us, we really migrated from film to TV to games because there's just something profound about going from being an observer of a story to a participant in a story. And inherently, when you're situating a player where they're doing verbs in a space as a character, suddenly you create this bond that film and TV has tried for so many years to figure out the best ways to get an audience bought into a journey, and games can sometimes do it in split seconds. And for us, we really feel like there's something in the intersection between film and games that's alchemy, and taking what makes film so compelling, an actor acting, and what makes games so compelling with mechanics and systems. So for us, we've always kind of been game first, to answer your question. And for Great Northern specifically, we're using live action film as the art style. So we're going on set with cameras and lights and all the other stuff that we know how to use. So in this instance, it's sort of why not make a feature adaptation while we're there anyway. And you kind of need to design both differently, and I don't necessarily want to go into detail on that too much right now, but
Special sauce, it's fine.
yeah. Just like each medium has different parts of how to make a story resonate with the audience, and knowing kind of the story from all sides is critical to be able to deliver multiple kinds of products at the same time.
Cool. Eric, actually, that's a good segue to looping back something you and I talked about, which was, games are this immersive medium. You're centering the player. We talked a bit about the challenges with a franchise like Saw. That's pretty intense. Like, how do you make that feel okay? When you're working on that type of adaptation.
I think a place of authenticity is grounding, I think, for any of the fans. And so when you're thinking about the perspective of the player, which is also the fan, of what is familiar to them, don't break the like in film, don't take them out, and so don't like keep the experience authentic. So when it comes to making sure that I obviously with Saw, it's a kind of but the goal is to make it a safe place. But really, that's authentic. Because even when you're working on other IP like The Hunger Games or John Wick, you're in that world, and so like, what is the audience wanting to feel, and are you making it so they can have those feelings? Because the content for that audience, no matter who you are, it's special to them, and that's why. They want to be there in the game format or in the pinball format or any format. It's for them something that was special to them, and they want to see more of that. And so you be authentic to what that special point is for them.
Yeah, I mean, they want to explore their fears. They want to feel like they are John Wick. There's ways in which that would be too intense if you take it too far, but you can kind of find that safe space for them to exist in and work through all that personally. Cool. So for you guys, I wanted to loop back a bit. You touched on some of it, but tell us a little bit about how you pull these things together, right? I mean, because this is a long, challenging process. I mean, we're talking about being graybeards, literally now. I mean, there's some things that I've worked on that these guys have worked on for going on a decade to get them to come to fruition. I think a lot of people don't understand that, right? We have to set expectations all the time with folks in the game industry who games have very long cycles, but they're somewhat predictable. Film and TV can take a long time to win its way through the process. So what are some best practices for both like getting in, helping people, setting expectations, and then shepherding it through the whole process?
Step one, don't read comments on social media, especially if you have been connected to Life is Strange, as they have a very passionate fan base who does not have the patience that those of us who work in Hollywood do. Sometimes when the 10,000th comment comes in, it will be worth the wait. That is all I can say. I promise you that. No one will complain at that point. Go on before I do say something I shouldn't say.
Oh, thank God. Great question. We have a bit of an onboarding process, and it is, we over-communicate, we educate. So it's explaining what to expect, what are potential pathways of success, of moderate success, of being stalled out, or of worst case scenarios. Like we want to make sure that everything is happening as visible as possible, hands above the table, and really unpacking their expectations and goals is they're typically very unique to the situations, very unique to the game or unique to the game studio, and making sure that we're in alignment and everyone understands how the process should go. And then once we jump into it, how much time and energy do they have to spend with us? As some teams are quite small, it can be a team of 6, Wishfully, Planet of Lana, it could be a team of 2, it could be a team of 200, and some individuals want to be updated only when there's something material. Others want to be on every email chain and every conversation. Fantastic. So for us, it is building and structuring the relationship once they are onboarded in to fit their needs, and then throughout the process, I mean, it's funny, I feel like we're oftentimes a bit of teachers through it because we explain everything in layman terms start to finish. Because Hollywood is so quirky, and I'll off-road for 1 second, then I'll hand it back to Matthew. When you're doing a rights deal, they call it an option purchase, which makes no sense because theoretically in any other line of any other business, it's a licensing deal, and you have a short-term licensing deal or a long-time licensing deal. You're licensing, because it came up a second ago, a pinball machine or a backpack, and you know what that license looks like. But out of the gate, Hollywood calls it an option purchase. So first question, does that mean they're buying my game? Are they gonna buy my company? Like my copyright and trademark, is it gone? No, we use weird legalese in linear entertainment in Hollywood, and we work through that process from start to finish to reduce the surprises and to make it as fun and frictionless as possible. Because if we can do our jobs right, we can have an actual adaptation that is produced, that is released, that does well. And we've seen this in the last 5 years. It's been extraordinary, actually. Like how many more fans come into the universe, how many more games will sell, but more importantly, we're making that IP, that game franchise, more exciting, more important. We're giving it a longer life, and honestly, most importantly for the fans, like we're modulating where to reach them. And if it's a live action movie first, then come to theaters, and then go back and play the game, then come back in theaters again, and then watch the TV show. So it's really a communicative experience. We do a lot of talking.
And unrelated to that, I just realized I quickly owe my mom an apology because I cursed, which I don't really do in real life, but for some reason when I do panels, I get really passionate, and I use profanity, and I don't do it in real life, so I don't know why I do it here. So I apologize.
He does not curse when we're doing that communication.
Like I don't.
So to take it back, I think, Ben, you're trying to create something. Are you thinking about those types of issues, like the different audiences for the two mediums and how you're going to address them? You touched on this a little bit, but I think I just want to unpack. Okay, so there's a particular, when games get greenlit, you're always thinking about what's the audience and who's the demographic and what other games they play. Are you guys thinking about that for this? Like, do you have like a target person who might play the game and a target person who's more likely to experience this as a film?
Yeah, well, I feel like, the thesis for our studio really boils down to people seek compelling stories about people by people. And, there are loads of games, many of which I love, that don't follow that paradigm. And those audiences we're not really trying to reach. Like, we're seeking out people who want, in their own mediums that they're comfortable with, to engage with a character on a journey. And, for us, we found that no matter whether you're a lifelong gamer or somebody who's never played a video game before, if you can be situated in a playable environment where you're acting as someone, then you end up, again, just forming this really deep bond with the character and wanting to keep going no matter where the journey takes you. So we want our game to be playable by film audiences, and we want our film to speak to the parts of our game that resonate most with those game audiences. So it's a mixture of kind of designing ahead of time, but also responding to the community. Like, I also don't think that reading every comment is feasible, but for us, we do a lot of play testing, and we want to make sure that what we're crafting is actually landing with the people that we intend it to land with.
And if I can piggyback you, I would say we kind of live in between that. Speaking of mom, we call it the mom test, where my mom may never, ever go play a game that we're adapting. So how do we design a series or a movie in a way that if she comes to the premiere, she's not going to be lost, confused, like what's going on? So we're always thinking about the game fans first, because typically we've come to it as fans of the game. So you want those Easter eggs, you want those fun payoffs for the folks that will know, while not taking away from the experience for those who may never play the game. And to me, you talked about Last of Us, Fallout. Like, Fallout was a perfect example of that, where my mom could have watched episode 1 through 9, 10, whatever it was, and not known it was based on a game. But if you play the games, you're like, wow, this wasn't a one-for-one, but it felt like it could have been a Fallout game. It felt like it was in that universe, and that's like the home run. Like, that's the sweet spot. The cyberpunk anime, which I'm shocked how many people still haven't seen it. I thought that was a home run. Like, you don't ever have to play the game. Completely Japanese anime, amazing soundtrack. It's just a good time. And like, I think that's typically our goal. So kind of living in between that, I guess.
Yeah, and just one final thing, and then happy to move on. The other thing is that a lot of games are designed to push people away, and challenge is used in order to kind of show your power. So many games are power fantasies, and there are games that are power fantasies because you can do something small and it feels really big, but there are other power fantasies where you try and you try and you try, and then eventually you succeed and you feel awesome. But there are some people who don't have the time to do all of that, or just don't have the literacy with a controller to play in those spaces in a 3D environment. You know, and we want to make sure that the games that we create can be playable by anybody.
Cool. Erika, as someone who's helping manage these now major franchises, like how do you think about addressing audiences? Do you think about like, hey, we really like to do Call of Duty because our current audience is there? Are you looking at these things as extensions where you're trying to bring in more people into the franchise? Like, what are some of the philosophies? Can you talk about some of the typical philosophies that a studio has around how and why you do these things?
So there is no one size fits all, and so sometimes it does start from a passion. It's like, I love this, and so I want to put this into this game, and those are always my favorite. And then sometimes, there is an opportunity with the film release that does make sense, and the audience is a perfect match, and you definitely want to bring it when those moments happen. And then there's the other approaches too, where that the film was amazing, and regardless of the numbers, it's just such a good story that could also be told in the POV of being actually in that powerful POV. That's the difference of you're watching the content and the director, you take it away what the director gives you, but in film or reading a book, what the author, you take a moment to digest that. But when you're actually in the game, you're making these choices. And so you want to make sure that there is new stories to tell, but also something that, being here at Games for Change, really just brings home the power of POV. And so when you're putting that POV and giving them the keys to the IP, you want to make sure that it's something additive and expansive. And so the goal would be to do something completely different that film is not capable of realizing. And not that film's not amazing, because it breaks boundaries still to this day, but games hold something very, very special and unique that I don't think anything else can. So that would be like the dream project. There's a few projects that I also can't really mention that I'm working on, but it definitely is, I think everything that because we started off talking about crossovers, but everything that, has evolved allows for these new projects to exist. So I think none of the films that we're making right now would be possible had we not gone through, wherever that ET landfill is, but ET had to exist, and we had to all go through that together to be to where we are now.
Yeah, just for anyone who doesn't know, there's a whole documentary about it, but basically Atari overprinted copies of the ET game and all the way back in the 80s.
Like a million.
And then dumped them in a landfill somewhere, and then this documentary excavated them. It's cool. You should
and I know I'm not officially the moderator, but I kind of want to embarrass one of my oldest Hollywood friends, Matt, here for a sec, because I think it is on topic and on point for what this event is about. So Matt reps a certain developer who has a game that he knows and Mike knows I'm obsessed with, and this certain developer just won a Peabody Award for this game that they did. Super small indie studio. It was one of those gaming experiences where I'd play it, I'd walk my dogs, and I would rush my dogs to get back to it so I could know where the story was going next. And what I want to know from Matt, because I know hardcore gamers who don't know this game exists, and as an agent who also, was a producer, we did stuff together. How did you spot that? Because you're so ahead of everyone on that one.
No, I mean, I think, look, we're doing.
And to be clear, we're not currently producing it.
No. We do the same thing that you guys do, which is just we're out there talking to people. I mean, we're a little bit advantaged in that I help put games together, and so we get to talk to people very early. And in this case, we didn't put this game together, but we just sort of were looking at them as maybe someone who we might want to help with that, and that turned into they were all set, which was great. We love to hear that. But then they were like, but we also would love to. We have ambitions to put this story out further into the world, and we were like, well, we we believe in that too. It is an amazing story, and we were able to play it early and go, yeah, like this needs to turn into something else. So, yeah, I mean, agents get a bad rap sometimes for just being, fully focused on business. But I think, again, you're not doing this job if it's not coming from a place of passion. You're not doing this job if you don't love the medium, and you're certainly not working on things that are difficult and take a really long time if you don't care. And so that's really, I think, why all of us on the panel keep coming back to passion, because when you're trying to make an impact through this work, it has to be coming from that place of passion. You have to go back and say, all right, like I want to see this story told. I know other people will want to see this story told. A lot of times, like to go to your game sales point, it also frustrates me because I'm like, look, the point of this is not how many people already played it. The point of this is there a kernel of something here that needs to be turned into something else for more people to experience it. The numbers are the numbers. Again, you're always going to have to go and do some sort of justification. And there's also just a lot of timing, because as you're selling things, the people who have the funding like want things at different periods of time. So you're sort of like looking for that moment to say, okay, now I have the ball. I've had the ball a long time. I can run the ball home because the opening has appeared. Anyway, so no, thanks for embarrassing me, but I hope that answered your question.
He has great taste. Is the conclusion.
So I think coming around on that in terms of like where you guys like what you guys want to do next. Like, do you guys see what you're doing as an ongoing experiment that you want to continue, or is this unique to the specific project you're working on?
No.
The hybrid nature of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a project by project basis. We're certainly excited about the potential of it. I think that in some ways this is a bit of a pilot. We'll see how it lands, how successful it is, both in terms of the data of it all, but also just how it feels to us as creators. If it feels like there's an authentic path forward to create two simultaneous products from one production, or if it's something that's better left to the rest of you as experts in the space. I think the other thing that I really want to speak to when it comes to where we want to go from here actually is something that Erika, you and Dmitri, you were saying earlier, where you got dust in your eye playing a game, And Erika, you were talking about psychological safety and the importance of creating a play space for people where they can tackle challenging ideas that, like you were saying earlier, like never would have been possible from a game development perspective before. And for us, I think the stories that we're always gravitating toward telling in whatever medium have, what we joke about slipping Advil in the brownie a bit, where they're not really designed with learning objectives to be games for impact, but Great Northern as an example is about a young woman who suddenly loses a parent. And when I think about the experience of saying goodbye to people I love and never knowing if it's going to be for the last time, that's something that requires putting your heart on the line. And we're asking our audience to do that with this character. And that inherently comes with responsibility, where if you're going to be tackling stories that have the power to connect to people in the ways that games and film can, you can't be laissez-faire. Like, there are people who do and are successful doing it, and that's just not what we're trying to build as a studio. So, yeah, I think we'll see about the business model side, but the story side, I think, will always kind of be our North Star.
Yeah, I think one thing we all have in common is there are people out there who are more laissez-faire, a little bit more business-minded, but that's not where any of the folks up here are certainly coming from, in my experience. So let's do a little bit more rapid fire as we come towards the end of the panel, and I think this is one also where we're gonna to protect NDAs, we might start talking a little bit more in generalities around, like we'll say the project or this person as opposed to naming names. But I wanted to talk a little bit, run through with everybody and talk a little bit about what social impact means to each of you in terms of your practice and like things that you're trying to put into action today going forward. For myself, I'm working on a few projects which do have that element, and it's hard. It's a complicating factor. Like there is the thing about the Advil, where you're like, I have to bring the medicine sometimes. But for me, if you have the passion, that'll carry you through. Erika, I'd love to talk a little bit about like where you're trying to make that actionable in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah, so I have amazing IP to work with and amazing stories and amazing filmmakers and people to work with. And what I always try to tap into is what hasn't been told directly from the source, and seeing like if there's a space where games can expand upon that. I'll just use the example of the Hunger Games. You'll probably notice that there isn't a Hunger Games, the game, out there. And I think that you were saying like about, sometimes it's about why not to do something, which is the right choice sometimes. But it's not that there's not going to ever be one day, but we're trying to take a very thoughtful approach to what that would become. The Hunger Games is actually, people would categorize like some of the gameplay focused on the arena. That would be like a Battle Royale category. Battle Royale already exists in Fortnite and other awesome games, but that actually defeats the purpose of what the Hunger Games is about in the first place. So from that part is the place where we're gonna approach it. But also, are there lessons to learn? And can, the power of the storytelling be something that, it's a very interesting POV to put players in and to make certain choices. And so what we would be wanting to discover is how can games, and I think right now is a wonderful age for narrative storytelling. There's like in the arcade here, like all of these explore amazing different topics. And so, instead of sort of like the obvious choice of, like a Battle Royale game, like what can we do with this really powerful IP that is shaped so many generations? And then since that is such an important thing to be able to do, taking time about what the starting point would be is something that exists. So long way of saying that it doesn't exist yet because we're working on trying to build that foundation. And I think I've learned quite a lot at this conference and the best way to start approaching it.
Awesome.
For me, I have a very unscientific method. I struggle to sometimes show emotions and feelings. So when I do experience those things while playing a game, it gets my attention. And it could be everything from a Sonic the Hedgehog or a Streets of Rage that takes me back to a moment in time of my life where I was in my room playing and loving those games, to something like a Life is Strange, 2014, being in the back of a van in China and getting an email saying, check this out, before the game came out. And I'm like, whoa, it's a game with 2 female protagonists and it's like grounded, dealing with real, yes. I almost did it again. Yes. And like, before I even knew anything like about the game, knew that it would go on to become a franchise, to your point, that was something we had never seen. That was in the days of like 95% male, 5% women, so the idea that you would make a entire game with 2 women set in a high school, didn't happen. And one of the best instincts I think we've ever followed. It's incredible. What we're doing with it's incredible. I'm gonna stop.
I'll stop you there. I will say on my side, recognizing the awesome power that Hollywood has on audiences and culture globally. I mean, it is considered a true form of soft power. There's a reason why our current US president wanted to put some tariffs on it to flex on that. But in general, we tell stories and having the ability, and now that I'm not an agent anymore, where sometimes I had to represent and work with clients or on projects that didn't have a theme that I personally felt was value add for people, that now we have a chance at Story Kitchen to tell stories. We want to entertain, but if we could sneak in a message, like sneak in that Advil, if we can unpack something, whether it's about friendship or it's about like grief, it's like a bigger human concept inside of it and entertain, like that is fantastic. And that is one for what Hollywood can do, with the exception, of course, of what games can do. Mm-hmm. So for me, that is what's exciting. Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot of thinking about designing for tomorrow, the theme of this year's festival, and respectfully, for your mom, tomorrow scares the living out of me. You know, like there are so many ways that I feel like our entire world is moving in a direction that is too far too fast to slow down. And for me, as an individual, one of the most remarkable parts of the Hollywood engine is its capacity to reach people. And when you can carry with you a story that brings people together on that scale, you end up creating communities. And for me, impact is all about reaching the most people with the strongest message to try to slow down the freight train before we go off the bridge, you know? And I'm inspired by what all of you are doing and so many other people at this festival, where it's easy, I think, as you start to become a savvy person in the world, to exploit for the sake of your own personal profit, but it's something else entirely to do so with a conscience.
Cool. We're at time, but we have a little bit of buffer. Anything else you guys want to say before we break?
I really want to say something that is really exciting about games in Hollywood right now. You know, I know that you know, there's obviously large studios that have had massive layoffs, and I think that also happens in Hollywood as well quite often. But one thing that you see from that is like people having a moment to go back to their individual selves. And we're in kind of a renaissance right now of original games and original artists. And I think now Hollywood is starting to, like, we're in a business of artists, you know, directors, writers, and, you know, so right now, like, as you were saying, like, it's about looking at who you all are and the art that you want to share. And the stories that you want to tell, and really empowering yourself right that. So I just wanted to really appreciate everybody for what they and their individual voice is. And it's really nice in this industry to start to have more people that I work in the office in Hollywood recognize these new voices that are starting to show up. So thank you.
And I just want to thank people like you who show up for events like this, because, you know, over the last few weeks, I've had an incredible opportunity to do more of this than I normally do, or sometimes would like to do, but it's not this part of it. It's meeting and talking to people after who leave me more inspired than, you know, I would have ever expected. And it gives me hope and faith in humanity that there are more of us who think alike, who want to see the world in a more positive way. And I was just telling Mike this morning at breakfast, like, I actually, over these last few weeks, feel more optimistic about the state of our world, regardless of if you turn on the news right now or go into your phone feed. Like, it will tell you the world is on fire. I'm telling you, I'm talking to people, meeting people from all over the world, and they want to tell stories, consume stories, and just like be part of like a joined humankind. And it makes me so happy that things like this exist. Susanna, wherever you are, thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. Thank you for putting this panel together. And with that, I'll hand it to Mike.
I'll just say, if you have 20 minutes to kill any given day, don't go to CNN or Fox. Like, go on a Steam. Like, go spend your time there. Go support developers, support games. Like, we are all here to tell stories. We're all here to live a great life, to lead by example. And we are so excited that you can do that with film, TV, and games as well. So we are honored to be a part of that, like, entire endeavor.
And I think I just want to end by thanking all of the people who supported me and Casey along our journey to get us to this place, including all of the people at Games for Change. I think one thing that when you're younger and you're seeing all of these spectacular Hollywood films and playing all these inspiring games, you think that there's a place for you in that world, and then, like Erika was pointing out, then you see the reality of the business side and these layoffs, and nobody ever gets opportunity in a vacuum. It happens because of a tremendous amount of work over a long period of time and the right people believing in you at the right times. So if any of you want to be in a position to do whatever you're trying to do in the world, just know that you can get there over time if you have the right combination of perseverance and luck. So good luck to you.
And shout out to all the volunteers helping with this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've been to a
There
lot
you
of
are.
these. This has been one of the best, well-run events that I've been to in
Right.
quite some time. And like the production going on behind here is like no joke. Like wearing a producer hat, like this is like top notch. So thank you to all the volunteers and everyone.
I've been to a lot of these things too, and that was
Like an NBC show back there.
Exactly, Chris.
Yeah.
I'll just say for myself, again, thank you to everybody, thank you at the conference, and then thank you to all of you who are working in this space and doing the work to try to make these things happen. I see the same thing these guys are talking about, where there are layoffs and there's stories about how things are there's a downturn. But the truth of it is that a lot of that is driven by people making bets and not going with their gut. And when I say their gut, I mean like their passion, their heart. And the things that come from a place of passion and heart, they take longer. Sometimes they're painful, but they cut through, right? Like you don't need a marketing plan. When someone can cry, playing your game, you need the marketing plan to tell them that they're going to cry when they're going to play your game. But I mean, you're not trying to sell them something. You're trying to make sure they understand there's an experience that they will enjoy. And we see a lot of that at this festival. So thank you all.
Peace out.
Thank you.